I don't think you can see me yet, but now you can, and I'm sorry about that. Excuse me for a moment. Set this up here, if you will. And, you know, very early this morning, basically about 1:50 this morning, I talked about the results of the draft that we saw on television, the WWE draft. Yeah, from last night. I gave my opinions about who went where. And surprisingly, I've got most of the picks that I felt were going to go somewhere correct. I mean, yes, some were predictable, some weren't. And I kind of had a feeling. The wrestling gurus, they did the live reaction, and they acted like, for some of the picks, they acted like, oh, we knew that was going to happen. Well, other times, they acted surprised. But come on, you shouldn't be too surprised about certain picks. But anyway, let's get into today's supplemental draft, if you will. Today's supplemental draft. Now, I have it marked down here, Raw, Smackdown. I didn't have no red marker, so I had to put it in pen, but it kind of differentiates what brand is which. The reason for this is my printer doesn't have no color ink right now, so I had to do with the best I have. Now, let's take a look at who Raw got today during the supplemental draft. Who Raw got? Excuse me. Again, like I said, who Raw got? Alright. The first person, or the first superstar or stars that Raw got was the package deal of the Great Khali and Rajan Singh, if you will. So Khali and Singh are back on Raw after almost a three-year hiatus. Of course, they showed up sporadically every now and then, but now they're back on Raw on a full-time basis. So Great Khali and Singh back on Raw on a full-time basis. The other superstar that Raw got was Natalya. Actually, it's a diva, and that was the second pick in the supplemental draft. Natalya is now on Monday Night Raw, and I think this is a good choice for Raw because it fills the void of the natural female wrestlers that they're missing. So I think this is a good job for them. This is a good pick for them. And don't be surprised if she ends up as the Divas champion before the year's out. The third pick that Raw got was Ezekiel Jackson. Now this is not much of a surprise or anything, considering Ezekiel's on the shelf. So we don't know exactly where he's going to go, exactly if he's going to be on Raw or if he's going to be let go. We don't really know. But from what I understand, the WWE higher-ups are high up on him, if you know what I mean. So we might see what happens. So, but that is the third pick Raw got. Ezekiel Jackson going to Raw. The fourth pick of the night, or the fourth pick of the supplemental draft, was Goldust. Now, this may not be as much a surprise to anybody, but Goldust getting drafted to Raw and going back there might be a good thing. It might be a good thing because that way he can serve as a mentor to some of the young athletes. then again, maybe he's just there to be a jobber. Who knows? Hopefully they'll have something for him. But Goldust is back on Raw, and I think he would have gone there in the first place had they not decided to put him on Smackdown. Excuse me. And then supposedly JTG got drafted to Raw, but WWE Universe, the live blog, corrected that, saying no, he didn't. So, I have no idea what happened there. So, supposedly JTG was drafted to Raw, but now it didn't happen. So, don't know. And then the final pick for Raw was the Hart Dynasty. Now this shouldn't come much of a surprise, seeing as though they won the tag titles last night, and Natalya is now on there as well. So the Hart Dynasty and Natalya together are on Raw. So, but as Richard Gray says here, expect to see the Hart Dynasty on both shows because they're the unified tag champions. So until they lose those belts, yeah, they're Raw superstars, but they can be on both shows. Now, as far as Smackdown goes, first pick for them, Chavo Guerrero. This doesn't come much as a surprise to me, because of Vicky Guerrero being there. So expect Chavo, now that he's back on Smackdown, to be teamed up with Vicky. Third pick of the day on the supplemental draft for Smackdown, Cody Rhodes. And a lot of people said this was expected, seeing as though he's in the commercial promoting Smackdown's move to Sci-Fi. So Cody Rhodes, not a big surprise. Hopefully he gets a main event push. We don't know if it'll be as a babyface or a heel, but we'll find out. The third pick of the day at the supplemental draft for Smackdown was Chris Masters. Chris Masters, for the second time in his career, drafted to Smackdown. The last time Masters was drafted to Smackdown was back in 2007, and now he's being drafted again. Richard says don't expect him to see him that much on television, but only at live events. Well, Richard, my friend, never say never. I've got a feeling this is what WWE needed for Masters, to send him to Smackdown where it's now wide open, if you know what I mean. The next pick for Smackdown today was Hornswoggle. That's right, so Hornswoggle goes back to Smackdown. Hornswoggle goes back to Smackdown, which means, since Finlay is still on Smackdown, expect a reuniting of the father-son team. So Hornswoggle back to Smackdown. He will probably be reunited with Finlay. The next pick of the day for Smackdown, Rosa Mendes. According to Richard, this is pretty much a junk pick. Since she was the valet, manager, girlfriend of Zack Ryder. So, but who knows what WWE might do with her on SmackDown. But yeah, Rosa Mendes on SmackDown. And according to Richard, it's pretty much a junk pick there. And then the final pick of the day at the supplemental draft goes to SmackDown. And it's MVP. MVP back on SmackDown a year after being drafted to Raw. Expect maybe some big things for MVP now, since, you know, Undertaker's taking time off. Well, basically, since there's now very few veteran main eventers there, expect MVP to finally get a push. We don't know if it's heel or babyface, but we will find out. But overall, I have to say that as you see up here, and it says part 2, I have to say, just like I said last night, and I say here, Raw has become Smackdown, and Smackdown has become ECW. Because when you think about it, what was ECW later on used for when it was around? The enhancement and bringing up of young talent. That's exactly what Smackdown is doing now. but now they got 2 hours to do it with, so we'll see what happens. But overall, I think it was a good draft, both last night and today. Some picks, you know, I probably wouldn't have given some picks to Raw and Smackdown. Like, you know, Goldust, I probably would have left on Smackdown. Ezekiel, I would have left on Smackdown. You know, Chavo, I would have left on Raw. You know, Hornswoggle, as much as I hate to say it, Hornswoggle, I would have left on Raw. You know, but just a few others. Expect maybe some people to be released from their contracts, because we know that the draft does that at times, so expect a lot of some superstars to be released, but maybe not. And overall, again, like I said, it was a pretty good draft, both yesterday and today. And that's all I have to say. If you got any comments, let me